So you might have to switch places because some people don't like it. So I usually say these people who were penguins in their past lives, they can go that side, especially around here because it blows directly on you. The people who were monkeys in past lives, they can stay where it's a bit warmer. And don't forget, whenever the air condition is on, then you can feel the it's too hot, it's too cold, I don't want it, blah, blah. And I don't know how many people we are. Tigal, how many people are we, more or less?
59, 60.
About 60 people. 60 egos wanting it a certain way, and that certain way is definitely different from other 59 egos, so it is never, it's kind of never perfect. Never ever.
Every person is only one eye?
Huh?
Every person is only one eye?
Yeah. In that case, yes. In that case. But if you're too cold where you're sitting, is somebody too cold who is sitting there?
No, the problem is the screen, so it's reach everywhere.
Yeah, no, it really blows on you when you're sitting there. Anyway, if you're comfortable, it's fine. You know, then all my talk here was for nothing. Waste of breath. Okay, so we continue with these emotion things, and then we do maybe at the end the Tonglen meditation. But I wanted to say also, some people came to ask me a few questions at the end, like now. It's like, the talk I'm giving, this is not a quick fix, okay? It's like, be careful that I say things and then maybe some of it is helpful, some of it is not. But in order to really be able to practice, you need a group. You can't do this on your own, and you need to study, and then it takes a long time for the mind to transform. So it depends a little bit on the interest that you have, on the possibilities that you have, and so on. Also, some people have left, so if you are too cramped there, you can spread out a bit. It's fine. So don't forget, as I said also, if you, of course, one is always wanting to work with the biggest stuff that one is dealing with, and that's not very skillful. That's like, wanting to learn how to drive and you kind of sit into a Formula One car. It won't take long and you're going to crash. Also this whole thing about, very often people think that Buddhism is, not to be angry, not to be attached, not to be this, not to be that. Yes, of course not, but a Buddha is not attached and not angry and all this. We are not Buddhas yet, so the main point is that you're not suppressing it. That you are able, you have this ability to watch it, to look at it, but not acting it out, so that you're not creating more habits. Are you cold? No, you're okay. Okay, because I thought you were shielding yourself. So that we're not creating more habits of the same sort, but also not to be angry at yourself if this doesn't work, So it's like, I used to be an alcoholic, and I drank because alcohol made me feel maybe like I am now, open and just honest, and that's the way I am, and that's good enough and okay. But I was always afraid of don't even know what. And then when I was not binge drinking, I was just drinking every day. And it took me to a certain level where then I felt okay. And I needed that level. But the problem with alcohol is after a while, after a few years, it doesn't really work anymore. Yeah, and then you still have this urge to drink, but it doesn't do anything for you. So I stopped drinking, by the way, before I became a Buddhist, just in case you have some addictions and didn't think, I become a Buddhist, then the addiction will go. It's also not like that. I still have fears. When we said this morning, are you nervous? Then Tommy said, yes. I said, yeah, me also. I'm always nervous when I have to sit in front of a group. Then I start talking. Then usually it's quite okay until now. Don't know. So we never know. I mean, this is why I said this morning, our mind is really crazy. There's so little control we have over the mind. And we see it when things don't go the way we want them to go. And the more you force, the more the mind will rebel. So you need, like a good mother or father, you need the right strictness and the right gentleness. And it's difficult because one day you need to go, come on, get going, and the other day, hey, that's it, stop, it's too big. So this is why meditation is so important, that you start to see what's going on inside. And that's not so easy, because that seeing what's going on inside has to become natural. I remember after 7 years of being a nun, and I went back to where I was at school, so we had a school reunion. And yeah, I went to a very good school, although I left, I was 15, because I did like to study. Yeah, there is some people who maybe have the capacities, but they don't like to study. So I thought, why should I study? I don't like it. I went to work, earned money so I could go skiing. I only needed languages so I could go work in a sports shop in the Swiss mountains, which I got the job, so it's okay. Knowing a few languages is enough. But then all the others, who continued, they're all, one is in the government, and the others doctors, lawyers, dream of every mother. And so they looked at me, like, like that. They said, oh wow, well, it's very nice what you're doing, but kind of, yeah, you're not harming anybody, but kind of, I don't need this, I'm happy. So I said, well, yeah, I'm also happy. I'm not doing it just to be happy. I'm doing this in order to see reality as it is. And so they say, okay, so what, 7 years, you got any diplomas? What can you do now? So they no, don't have diplomas. And so I said, but now, after 7 years, when anger arises, I know it the first moment. And they say, oh, is that all? You see, when you don't practice, you don't see how difficult it is not to get carried away with it, and to be able to catch it, not having to suppress it, but just to withdraw the mind from the object or the thoughts, and stay with it, and then the fourth step, kind of dissolve it into its nature, which is there is no essence of anger. Anger is not really there. That's just what I wanted to say. Also, in here, no desire, no disdain. People here, no pleasure. So they say, oh, Buddhism, no, thank you. It's like they're taking away my pleasure. I have so little in my life now. They want to take the pleasures away from it. There's nothing wrong with pleasures, as long as you're not thinking that the pleasant feeling comes from the object. It's okay, but it looks like that. But it's not. The pleasant feeling comes from your positive karma that is ripening. This is why you have a pleasant feeling. Because if the pleasant feeling would come from the object, every time you touch the object, you see the object, you eat the object, it should create a pleasant feeling, but it doesn't. So it cannot come from the object. It comes from your attitude towards it. We were talking about Trina. Where is Alon? Over there. He wanted to give me Trina. So I said, no, thank you, because at one point, quite a few years ago, I had one of these eggplants, katzilim, and it was swimming in Trina. And because I usually like to finish what I've been given, I did. I felt so nauseous afterwards. So the Trina is, for me, that's it, history. For my body, let's say. And for Israelis, they can't understand. They don't understand. How can you not want Trina in your whatever? So for you, it's heaven. For me, it would be punishment. Yeah. So like this. And anger also, there's always this thing about justified anger. Maybe we'll do a reflection on that. Okay? So we start with reflection or meditation, and we start a bit like what we did at the beginning, and then we look. So again, if you can, you just turn your mind inside, or your attention, your awareness, and you look. try to check, like a scientist, what's going on in the mind. As I said, the readiness to be open, the readiness to be friendly, and the readiness not to judge this is good or this is bad. Very gently make room for whatever feeling is arising in you. In case it's difficult, don't think about the story. That's another kind of key word in Buddhism. Drop the story, look at the sensation. And if you can, label it. Give it a name. In Hebrew, in English, whatever. So some people came to see me and talked about anger. So it's definitely not about, anger is bad, you're not allowed to be angry or something like that. We need these emotions to survive, but not holding on to them. And very often, if you look now, we all have values. So maybe you check, what are my values? What is it that I value most? And very often we see when difficult emotions are present, something that you might be struggling with, the reason it's arising is because there's something underneath that is deeply held and valued by you. So if you're angry at injustice, that means deep down, what you value very dearly is justice. But very quickly, we see the injustice that is being done either to us or others that we like. And sometimes it seems as if we are blind to the injustice that we do to others. So justice and injustice, for us, very biased. But if you're feeling fear for your safety, what you value is safety and comfort. You fear for the future of our planet. What you value is security, safety, nature. And this will probably happen in the next few days if you are outraged at politicians and leaders for their positions, regardless of what they are. Look a little closer and see what is the value underneath that leads you to this level of suffering from that emotion. We only have strong feelings about things that really matter to us. So the invitation here is to consider what matters. If justice matters, if fairness matters, if kindness matters, if security, safety matters, if nature matters, could you make some space for that value? So we can't change the world. We can at least not contribute to injustice, violence, polluting this planet. But we can take care of our mind. So perhaps there is an image that arises in your mind's eye associated with that particular value. Perhaps if it's nature, there's a favorite place in nature. Brings you joy and satisfaction. Call to mind that place. If you are feeling unsafe, insecure, where is a place that you feel safe and secure? If you are valuing fairness and opportunity, what is it that represents these qualities, these values, when you call them to mind? Maybe you can visualize a world that is fair, whatever that may mean for you. So feel what it feels like to fully embrace this deeply held value. Not thinking about the people who are not having these values, but for you. Because then again you touch your own goodness, you're in contact with it. So then we look at these values, we kind of learn them from others. So we're honoring the roots, the contributors to this important value. Somebody who inspired us, somebody who taught us, somebody who was a living example. So just thinking about these people opens up our heart. Whatever we know, we learned it from somebody. Or somebody was just a good example and we started to imitate. So these values that you hold so precious and sacred in your heart, let them strengthen you, empower you to find a way forward to do whatever is within your power to do to align with this value. Even when it feels like the task is insurmountable. what is the one small step you might be able to take in your own world in service of this deeply held value? We can contribute to the world to be a better place if we are living these values, because we might inspire other people the same way as we were inspired by our gurus, by our masters, by our teachers, by our parents, maybe by brothers and sisters. So by thinking like this, we can be empowered by embracing and savoring your values, rather than becoming overwhelmed by the enormity of the task and the things that we cannot change just now. Don't look at others with arrogance and pride by thinking, oh, I'm not like them, I'm much better. Again, it makes the split. Just see that it's enough for you to hold these values and as much as possible to live them. Then the world will change. Maybe only the people surrounding us, but they also can change others. So we appreciate this being human, to appreciate these deeply held, important values, to savor and appreciate them and let them energize us. As Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in this world. And this comes from a place of kindness and compassion for others, and especially for ourselves. After having reflected like this, just consider returning to this practice from time to time, to touch base, to reconnect to what's most important to us underneath the suffering and the struggle, the things that we wish for in our lives, in our society, on our planet. We are reconnecting to this inner strength and letting it empower us to do what needs to be done, what is possible to be done, and perhaps letting go of what we cannot change. It's so easy to blame and criticize others, isn't it? They are responsible for my happiness, but they're not. And very often when I see people who totally do not care about the planet, do not care about ethical conduct, do not care about others, I always remind myself, this could be me. But thanks to the people that I met on my way who inspired me not to be like this, I am what I am. not to be proud and not to compare myself with others, but to, to really be aware of the values that I have. And even though everybody around me is not living them, I can still live them. Honesty, generosity, patience, courage, these kind of things. But sometimes, as it says in the meditation, oh, by the way, this meditation also not from me, it's from Rick Hansen. So, which some of you might know. He's a neuroscientist and a meditation leader, and so very nice American guy who does things with his son. Also, you can find him on YouTube. You can find everybody on YouTube. But it's important to connect to these values and see, okay, what can I do instead of getting, out of your mind and getting depressed or angry. And depression is anger is directed towards inside, anger is directed towards outside, so most of it is with anger. But if you feel anger arising, especially when it's one-to-one level, of course if it's the political situation and all this, you cannot go and phone the Prime Minister and say, excuse me, what are you doing here? But it's really good to see which values that I hold are being violated here, or what needs that I have are not getting fulfilled, so that's why I feel angry. And then we start to understand, maybe it's a bit too much to ask the whole world to fulfill my needs, but since we're all the same, everybody has these needs of being seen, respected, accepted. I don't know, what else? What else do we have needs? Safe. Oof. Yeah. Huh? Loved. Not by everybody. There also we make choices. If somebody loves you that you don't want, ooh la la, their love becomes big burden. Yeah, so again, we choose. If you would be like, I know it sounds a bit disrespectful, but if you look at Labradors, for example, the dogs, they love everybody. Everybody they see, oh, the tag is going like this. They don't care if the master is calling them. They go to say hello to the person who comes this way. Yeah? Isn't it? And they make you happy. Why? Because they are happy to see you. So we can do these things. So we cannot ask from others to fulfill our needs, but what we can do is trying to fulfill their needs without becoming a doormat, without going to the extreme, without, a little bit like that. But what do you think? Yeah. And then it's almost like a miracle. If you start to try to fulfill the needs of others, no, I'm not saying the needs when you're still young, right? The needs of your parents that they want grandchildren. I'm not talking about this. You don't want to get married, maybe you have a career or you want to study Dharma or whatever, and your parents, oh, when will I get a grandchild? When will I get a grandchild? Any of you have ever heard that? Yeah, only in this country, by the way. It's quite amazing. It's really nice to see when you go to different countries, how we all have kind of national delusions. That in other countries, it's absolutely not a problem. Like, you'll know the story, but I was so taken aback. I think it was my second time here, and somebody asked me, then I was about, how old was I, 20 years ago, or 50-something, 52. So somebody asked me, how can you be a woman, not have children, and be happy? I thought, I never wanted children. I never had this wish for children, because as I told you, I was 15 when I left school, and where do you learn languages? 15, so that you're still kind of safe. You go and work as an au pair girl. For girls, it's very easy. So you go to that country, you learn the language, you get paid, they feed you, you sleep there, but you have to look after their kids. So looking after children as a 15-year-old, when you have zero attachment for them, yeah, I think that did it. So the first job was 4 of them, the second job was three of them. One was French, the other one learning Italian,